name is Marnie Reed. I'm a clinical professor of language and specifically language education. I'm in the language and literacy department here at the Wheelock College of Education. And the new book has this rather maybe puzzling title, Listening in the Classroom. The year that one of my doctoral students wrote a grant to English for New Bostonians, and that grant was funded, we, my faculty colleagues and I, thought, well, this would be a wonderful opportunity for our Master of Education students in the TESOL program to do their service learning at a local refugee center. It's located in Jamaica Plain. It's the Somali Development Center, and we have a large population of Somali refugees here in Boston. So my doctoral student was successful. The grant was funded. So what that enabled was to create a separate classroom in the Development Center. We sent our students in the methods class to do their service learning component in this refugee center. So they arrived and began with the basic introductory level textbook, sort of the kind of thing where you would say, okay, let's open the book to Unit 1, Chapter 1, let's begin. And these students weren't sure how to hold the book. How do you orient it? Do you read from left to right, from right to left? In other words, this population, and these were primarily women whose children were in the public school system, and while their children were at school, they had time during the day. They wanted English language lessons, but they had spent most of their lives in refugee camps. So there's actually a title for this population. It's called SLIFE, Students from Limited or Interrupted Formal Education. And so these individuals were pre-literate. They had not learned to read or write up until this point. And so we had this epiphany that we, the faculty in the TESOL program, needed to be preparing our students to work with pre-literate learners who didn't know how to decode the words on the page to be able to read and answer comprehension questions about the reading passage. We can't expect pre-literate learners who don't know how to decode the written script, they don't know phonics. We can't expect them to read something and then answer the questions, but we're doing that in listening. We're basically saying, listen to this, now answer the questions. And we haven't taught them how to process the input. They all realized and said vociferously, this doesn't make any sense, but that's what you just said. So now we begin to believe that there's a problem. And the problem is what's referred to in the literature as connected speech processes. So in every language, every speaker of any language in the world speaks in such a way as to facilitate articulation. And in English, that means we're going to run all the words together. And we're going to take little words like he or her or his or him and just chop off the H part of it. So tell her becomes teller. And of course, there are such things as bank tellers. In fact, maybe I had primed them to think about a bank teller because my random sentence was, tell her I'll meet her at the bank. Of course, there are storytellers and fortune tellers. So teller is a real word. And there are parking meters and taxi meters and all sorts of meters. So they were trying to pull actual words out of the ether. But they knew it made no sense. And so they were processing at this very bottom line level of listening to the incoming acoustic signal and trying to make some sense out of it. They can't recognize known words in this continuous, connected, rapid speech. The second level is they reach maybe a threshold where they begin to be able to understand the words that were said, but then the problem is they're missing the point or missing the message. So they can understand the content, but not the speaker's intent. And a very common example of that would be a typical classroom experience where you have a student who comes up to a teacher and says, oh, excuse. So therefore, I didn't get my homework done. Can I please turn in my assignment late? And the teacher, whose syllabus might have, the number of penalty points you get for late assignments, responds, you can. At which point the student says, oh, thank you, with great relief. So they've understood the words. Can is an affirmative word. They've missed the point. That's a negative message. Native speakers hear the word, but you shouldn't, but it's going to cost you. The non-native speaker doesn't hear that word, but they're focused on the words, not the intent, the pragmatic function of how we use intonation to convey something that we might imply but not actually say, or to make a correction. No, it's not Tuesday, it's Thursday when the class meets, or whatever it might be. So listening actually occurs at these two levels. Can the student understand or process the oral input? And in order to understand the content of what was said, can they then read between the lines and pay attention to the intonation contour that signals the speaker's intent? What's the meaning behind it? Are you emphasizing? Are you correcting? Are you implying but not saying? And so forth. So the book basically addresses those two different levels of listening, so that the learner can actually understand and recognize known words in connected speech and can understand the speaker's intent. So that's the purpose behind it. And thank you for coming to ask about it.